If you are not familiar with the name Joe Rogan, then you may recognize him from some viral content on the web. He is famously known for his podcast called The Joe Rogan Experience, a boundary-free arena, a platform for the intellectual dark web, and has featured a diverse ideological mixture of political guests. An American UFC color commentator, a podcaster, a comedian, an actor, and a former television host are some of the professions of Joseph James Rogan, who was born on August 11, 1967. His podcast, The Joe Rogan Experience, sees him talking about current events, comedy, politics, philosophy, science, martial arts, as well as hobbies with famous guests. Joe Rogan exhibits different talents. In the late 1980s, Rogan initiated his laughter career through performing in the Boston environs. He borrowed much from other comedians such as Richard Pryor and Sam Kinison in his early years. Rogan thrives on observational humor, societal critique, and personal anecdotes in his comedic performances, which have led him to a history of recording many comic specials. Rogan got his massive break in the mid-1990s when he landed a role in NBC's news radio sitcom, where he starred as Joe Garelli, an eccentric electrician. He further rose to fame by hosting the Fear Factor reality television show between 2001 and 2006, and during the show's return in 2011. Joe Rogan, the color commentator for the Ultimate Fighting Championship UFC since 1997, is a longtime enthusiast of this art. His insightful comments have made sure that many people who like watching mixed martial arts MMA always want him as their commentator. Additionally, Rogan has engaged practically in other aspects of MMA, such as having acquired his black belt from some reputable instructors, such as Eddie Bravo and Jean-Jacques Machado. He also trains in kickboxing, takedown defense, wrestling, and boxing skills. In 2009, Rogan introduced a long-form conversation podcast called The Joe Rogan Experience that touches on many subjects such as comedy, politics, philosophy, science, and health. This podcast stands out because it invites a lot of different people for broad and profound talks: researchers, comic performers, and policymakers. Rogan has faced criticism for his guest choices and his comments on COVID-19, the question of gender identity, and vaccination, among other issues. The critiques therefore state that through his show, Rogan could be magnifying dangerous notions because it offers room for misinformation to thrive. But on several occasions, Rogan has differed from his critics by saying that his main objective is to advocate for the right to speak freely while interacting with others. In January 2013, video episodes of the podcast started to be uploaded onto YouTube under the account Powerful Dre, and episodes were regularly achieving viewership in the hundreds to millions. Later in 2013, Redban started to reduce his time as the podcast's sole producer, as Rogan had increased the number of podcasts each week, and it got to the point where Rogan wanted to keep on going, 6-7 hours, which became too much for him to handle alone. As a result, Jamie Vernon was hired as a second producer, initially to fill in as Redban's assistant, leaving Redban to produce roughly half of subsequent episodes. Vernon soon took over full-time, and Redban subsequently appeared on the podcast as a guest. Originally, the podcast was recorded at Rogan's home in California. From November 24th, 2011, some episodes were recorded at the Ice House Comedy Club in Pasadena, California, also known as the Death Squad Studios. Beginning on November 27, 2012, the majority of episodes were recorded in a private studio that Rogan acquired in Woodland Hills, Los Angeles. The 1000th episode aired on August 18, 2017, and featured comedians Joey Diaz and Tom Segura as guests. The podcast has been described as an important node of the intellectual dark web and has featured a diverse ideological mixture of political guests, including Democratic presidential candidates and conservative figures. In a more critical article for National Review, writer Theodore Kupfer wrote that the podcast, hosted by a weed-smoking DMT obsessive whose most cherished political cause is the quest to end male circumcision, has become one of the last bastions for civil discussion in contemporary America. In August 2010, 9 months after its launch, The Joe Rogan Experience entered the list of top 100 podcasts on iTunes. In February 2014, the podcast won a Stitcher Award for Best Overall Show of 2013. In 2017 and 2018, the podcast was Apple's second most downloaded podcast. In January 2019, the podcast won Best Comedy Podcast at the iHeartRadio Podcast Awards. Rogan has achieved many accomplishments that have led to significant changes taking place within the larger media scene, especially through altering content consumption and monetization. When he switched to Spotify, it was indicative of a change within podcasting as an industry, making evident how famous people too could have exclusive contracts with them. At the same time, he shows how traditional media often got it wrong by insisting on short pieces while he prefers longer interviews. hence proving that serious people need detailed conversations. With guests of the caliber of Elon Musk, Bernie Sanders, and Edward Snowden, he has interviewed many high-ranking people. Nevertheless, some people have criticized Joe Rogan's content mostly on controversial subject matter and guests. They say the broadcaster has been disseminating falsehoods about certain matters, thereby igniting discussions on the responsibilities of influential media personalities. In 2020, there was an exclusive licensing pact between Spotify and Rogan, where he reportedly received $100 million, making it one of the biggest podcast deals ever signed. Rogan's transition to Spotify was met with praise and criticism due to the opportunity that podcasts now have in the media sphere, as well as concerns regarding regulation and censorship by these companies during live broadcasts. He has eclectic interests from hunting to DMT to NASA conspiracies. Therefore, his podcast is not siloed by one subject. This means the people who listen to him share at least some of his interests and come from different fan bases. Some are UFC fans, some are passionate hunters, and some love comedy. This is what makes him special. This is also why his podcast is so big. Now 55 years old, the American podcaster has amassed a net worth of $150 million. The actor has a body that matches his character. At 5 feet 8 inches high, weighing 150 pounds while standing tall in the gym or in front of your TV screen, there's nothing unattractive about him at all. His wife is called Jessica Ditzel, and the couple is blessed with 2 adorable daughters. Exploration of unconventional and controversial topics is one of the hallmarks of JRE. Rogan has welcomed many guests who are proponents of or are known participants in different conspiracy theories, thus giving them the forum to discuss their ideas thoroughly. Some of the most notable conspiracy theory-related episodes include Alex Jones. Alex Jones has probably been the most controversial guest on the JRE show yet. InfoWars founder and conspiracy theorist, Jones discusses a variety of government conspiracies and secret societies in his appearances. These episodes have led to much controversy and criticism, largely because he is known to spread misleading information. Graham Hancock. Graham Hancock is a writer as well as a journalist who is popular for his thoughts on ancient cultures and other alternative versions of history. He has appeared on the JRE many times. He argues that it seems far from what most people believe about history. For example, that prehistoric people had developed civilizations that were more advanced than what many are aware of, which questions some of the most dominant ideas about history. Eddie Bravo. Eddie Bravo is a Brazilian jiu-jitsu black belt who has been on the show quite often. He usually talks about his ideas on different conspiracy theories, such as the flat earth theory, as well as his doubts as to whether anyone ever landed thereon in regards to the moon. When Rogan interviews him, they usually engage in lively arguments about these issues. Dr. Stephen Greer. Dr. Stephen Greer, who fights for the disclosure of UFOs, has touched on the subject of extraterrestrial life theories, as well as government sealing on the UFO subject. His segments have looked into the possibility of secret alien technologies, as well as government classified projects. Rogan is commonly curious in his style of handling such talks. It is not uncommon for him to doubt one's statements, though in a respectful manner, by asking questions up to the hilt. However, he gives plenty of time to the guests to present their ideas. The suitability of such a strategy is met with varied responses. Supporters assert that Rogan gives a site-free communication and various viewpoints, thus supporting open conversation on debate issues. However, critics argue that allowing conspiracy theorists to share their views could give false information credence and promote unsubstantiated or hazardous notions. Rogan has also acknowledged the responsibility that comes with his platform, stressing that his podcast is for conversation, not advocacy, and urging listeners to be skeptical about its content and look up information themselves. Although the influence of JRE is clear to see with its conspiracy theory-themed episodes, often gaining considerable notoriety and viewership. Joe Rogan has been a complex and influential figure for many years now. His career has seen him in various fields, right from when he started performing stand-up comedy to becoming a globally recognized podcaster. Through different controversies he has faced along the way, their quality still speaks for itself, while his sphere of influence cuts across traditional media communication lines, transcending modern-day personal expression through news outlet contents, for instance, where this reporter sits today, or any other place like that. With all this said about Joe Rogan, one can therefore not say that he is not one of those persons whose voices are known through the entertainment industry and culture as we. Now let's see the main focus here, which is all the tales and things that Joe Rogan talks about in his podcast, including everything the Navy witnessed when they dived deep into the ocean. You would want to stay for that, as it is about to get more interesting. Well, Rogan frequently invites ex-military scientists and scholars on his show to give first-hand accounts as well as expert opinions about the incidents. The accounts help to validate the accounts and suggest possible reasons for these incidents. He has had ex-Navy pilots among his guests, like Commander David Fravor, notable for seeing the Tic Tac UFO, along with other Army men who talked about their inexplicable encounters. Rogan and his guests often discuss where these underwater phenomena come from and what they are like. Some people believe that some highly advanced secret military devices or experimental flying machines are responsible for them, but others think it could be something extraterrestrial or even ancient civilizations living underwater. Rogan insists that we have to keep looking into this with an open mind, because there is still so much we don't know about our oceans. Their size is vast, and they do not know what's down there yet. Joe Rogan's podcasts involving accounts of witnessed events by the U.S. Navy from the sea's bottom are an essential contribution to a more comprehensive discussion on ocean's mysteries and their potential unknown factors. Such stories, which are recounted by trusted informants examined by specialists from other walks of life from his audio show, retain interest among listeners, serving various purposes. Though still waters run deep, oceans are even more mysterious. The Earth's oceans are massive and enigmatic. Unsurprisingly, strange things have been discovered there by humans who visit these places. Earlier studies have shown that it is impossible that life would be supported by the icy coldness and lack of nutrients underneath Antarctic shelves. By revealing that a community of animals exists on the seabed, Joe Rogan has cast doubt on the knowledge of researchers concerning life in challenging habitats. The presence of such living organisms in these areas contradicts all scientific knowledge and should not be so. It was Joe Rogan who spoke out about the terrifying incident he witnessed during a dive. Consequently, scientists at NASA as well as Navy officials have become more interested in conducting extensive research relating to the ocean's terrifying deep levels, where ORFIS, an ROV mapping device, is used to establish if there is any life within such remote areas. There are many mysterious and extraordinary species waiting to be discovered in unexplored areas of oceans, which never cease to amaze us. Rogan also touches upon his fascinating findings about the Arctic Ocean, highlighting such phenomena as underwater habitats located near ancient volcanoes and the capacity of seafloor fauna to live despite changes in climate patterns. Moreover, the transcript delves into the fascinating ecosystems below the ice cap of Antarctica, focusing on the detection of subglacial lakes that accommodate extraordinary life forms, hence the urgency for conserving these susceptible ecosystems. Unfathomable. Continuous oceanic phenomena bewilder scientists. Joe Rogan remembers a frightening event when he was underwater and saw a massive eyeball nearby. This will help us to understand the great and mysterious deep sea being explored by researchers and agencies such as NASA as well as the Navy. There are some attempts to map the deep sea trenches with a remotely operated vehicle called ORFIS to find a glimpse of life in such extreme places. In an unknown underwater world, there are always extraordinary creatures that nobody has ever seen, and it is always full of surprises. Joe Rogan talks about the fantastic findings made by scientists delving into oceanic depths. From the hydrothermal vents that house thriving ecosystems to the ancient city of Pavlopetri and the evolution of ocean life itself, the sea remains to amaze and impress with its incredible stories. Joe Rogan talks about the fascinating discoveries that were found in the Arctic Ocean. It was astonishing for scientists that undersea creatures existed around dead volcanoes, even more so when they saw sponges still alive in these severe conditions where little to no sunlight penetrates and food sources are extremely scarce. These sponge bacteria were very rich in nutrients because they consumed old material left behind by other organisms living there before, along with sediment particles carrying the dead bodies of these previous residents too. Moreover, a gigantic algal bloom was found beneath the thick Arctic ice by the researchers, demonstrating the unprecedented aliveness of phytoplankton in the Arctic. These results are vital as to how global warming interacts with the changing ecology of the Arctic Ocean. He examines the detection of biodiversity beneath frozen seas in the Arctic, which greatly influences the wider ecological aspects of the region. This flora and fauna supports many different species of wild animals and may necessitate alteration of what is previously thought about as how the Arctic tundra works. He also talks about the ON Project expedition, which was a groundbreaking expedition that made use of an advanced underwater robot to explore rare volcanic vents that were situated 13,000 feet below the surface of the Arctic Ocean. The mission gathered extensive samples that were aimed at revealing whether the life around these vents was distinctive or linked with deep-sea life found in other oceans. Moreover, it raises concerns about how plastic pollution affects the health of human beings and marine life in general, with a particular focus on the Arctic region. The study identifies substantial amounts of plastic enclosed within Arctic ice mass. There were also very small particles that are dangerous to human beings as well as ocean habitats. Also, the problem of sea plastic pollution extends to Antarctica, which menaces its fragile and enchanting environment in this icy, desolate wilderness. Running under the frozen Antarctica, the submerged valuables and delightful ecologies are considered in this discussion. Antarctica has almost 400 lakes underneath its ice for miles, even though it is said that it is not fit for existence, since subglacial Vostok is just living proof of how deep the continent it is. There are many different types of remarkable creatures living in these lakes, including bacteria that can survive under extreme conditions, as well as enormous squid and long spiders. Also, one can see among them transparent icefishes having big eyes and transparent scales, which make them look more mysterious than other inhabitants of this mysterious world. What scientists discovered recently is a populous community of small shrimps called amphipods, which exists along with them in the underground under the shelf of Larsen Glacier in Antarctica. The groundbreaking discovery of a giant underground river flowing beneath Antarctica was also made, and satellite imagery has shown how the world's biggest iceberg drifted away from there. But plastic pollution infiltrating into Antarctica and the Arctic was also cautioned against in the address. Thus, the attention was drawn to the urgent necessity for action aimed at safeguarding these frail ecosystems, as well as highlighting the global ramifications of the crisis. He would be telling the shocking discoveries made in the subglacial lakes of Antarctica, which contain a variety of resistant microorganisms, big crabs, giant squids, and other distinctive species that subsist altogether there. These wonder creatures confound standard perspectives on the development ability to be shaped by the environment devoid of light, as well as lacking nutrients by utilizing energy derived from other kinds not conventional. The chapter underscores how essential these subglacial lakes are to enhancing our grasp of life's capacity to adapt under stress, as well as its ability to bounce back after disruptive events have occurred. Nevertheless, the sea is still a mysterious area, which leaves scientists continually fascinated. Another fascinating discussion is the Tic Tac incident. A retired top-notch jet pilot who pursued a Tic Tac shaped unidentified flying object near San Diego's coastline in the year 2004 has narrated a spooky incident in Joe Rogan's podcast in which a fellow pilot met a huge submerged object 10 years before. In a bombshell New York Times article published in December 2017, retired U.S. Navy pilot Commander David Fravor revealed that during training exercises in the Pacific Ocean 160 km off the coast of San Diego, his squadron saw a 747-sized object just below the surface of water. A tic-tac-looking object that was moving erratically forward, back, left, right was 12 meters long and hovered just above the surface of the water near the object, which was underwater. Fravor tried to get near the object, but it went away really fast. Later on, during another mission, an aviator from his team used an aircraft's infrared targeting system to shoot a video of one such object after his radar was blocked, a warlike move according to Fravor, which is not war. Former Pentagon official Luis Elizondo obtained this footage, which has become very popular. He released it together with other two videos from To the Stars Academy, which is a UFO research organization that was started by Tom DeLonge, the Blink 182 singer. The release of this footage has brought about some controversies for 2 years till last month, when it was acknowledged by the Navy for the first time as an unidentified phenomenon in this threesome of clips. CDR Fravor appeared on Joe Rogan's well-known podcast for his first key interview since the Navy officially agreed to the tapes, where he revealed some secrets about what he had also seen during his time as a pilot. He said others no sooner heard about him than they reached out, talking of other different cases. He remarked that nobody may feel isolated, since one of them was a Navy pilot who operated helicopters with CH-53, which the Marine uses to lift heavy cargo and conduct other operations on the East Coast, where most shooting ranges are situated. At that moment, this was observed in Puerto Rico. The job for the helicopter pilot of retrieving BQM aerial target drones, which deploy a parachute and fall into the ocean, and submarine telemetry torpedoes, which collect data before blowing ballast and floating to the surface, was mentioned as having been done by CDR Fravor in the mid to late 90s. The helicopter dropped a Navy SEAL into the sea. He implanted a device, and they later flew away. The first time they went to pick up a BQM, he was seated at the front, since in CH-53, you could observe down by your feet, and when looking down there was 50 feet below water. He observed some kind of dark heap emerging from below, said Hodgson. Looking at this thing while it goes up, he's wondering what that is, and then it just goes right back down underwater as they pull the kid and BQM out of the water, then it drops right back into the depths. The incident was pretty weird, according to CDR Fravor telling the pilot, until some months later, when it happened again. He's out picking up a torpedo. They hooked the diver up on the winch, and as they're lowering him down, he sees this big mass, he said. Moreover, numerous underwater conspiracy theories remain largely unexplored, though occasional traces and clues emerge, sparking further intrigue. One of the oldest and most popular underwater conspiracy theories is the Atlantis, which is an underwater legend of one of the most ancient civilizations that was advanced and was lost in the ocean 6,000 years ago. Thus, some suggest that pieces of Atlantis could be found either in the Mediterranean Sea, the Atlantic Ocean, or the Caribbean Sea. On the other hand, there exist other falsehoods about lost civilizations such as Lemuria or Mu, which are believed to have sunk under the face of the water. One more popular belief is that aliens have created bases deep underwater to escape detection by people. In support, there are instances of unidentified submerged objects, USOs, that move at high speeds and don't behave like sea animals or man-made vehicles. It is said they exist in areas such as the Bermuda Triangle and near the shores of countries like Russia and the United States. Some people believe there are legendary sea monsters like the Kraken, which is a creature resembling a giant squid and still exists. A few sightings of huge, mysterious animals and the vanishing ships and subs remain unexplained, hence supporting these ideas. This is supported by the existence of oceanic inhabitants that are not even known to scientists, but inconclusive proof has been identified. There is a claim that says that many governments, especially those that have power over the world, are known to have private underwater bases for which they conduct secretive studies on new technologies. These bases are said to be situated within the depths of the sea, where nobody can easily reach them, and are used mainly as either military or new energy source experiment grounds. For many years, the myth of mermaids, creatures who are half human and half fish, has continued. Additionally, other aquatic humanoids, including mermaids, could be living in the deepest underwater communities today, if what modern apprehensions tell us is anything near the truth. With such ideas in consideration, it is believed that they can understand everything about the ocean's deep secrets, just like we do, but through advanced means, and even communicate just like us. According to certain scholars, some powerful entities have taken advantage of the broad network of underwater telecommunication cables for extensive surveillance and regulation. They claim that these cables do more than carry data; they manipulate global communication while pretending to offer internet and telephone services. Some view the ocean depths as repositories of archaic alien ruins, including spaceships, technologies, and even extraterrestrial beings preserved in stasis. It is believed that these constructions are the leftovers from extraterrestrial visitations in the past that world leaders keep secret from the populace to maintain their anonymity. While they do not have much evidence to support them, we still find some interest in such underwater conspiracy theories as they relate to mysteries within the sea's depth that are yet to be unraveled, and their possible secrets by combining myths, fables, and fanciful scientific theories in some interesting manner. It is a fact that Lake Baikal in Siberia, Russia, is the oldest and deepest freshwater lake around the globe. Therefore, it has experienced several unexplained incidents, such as unexplained lights sighted at the lake, unidentified submerged objects, USOs, appearance of human-like beings known as swimmers or aquatic humanoids. The Russian military divers are claimed to have met them while in training exercises in the 1980s. Numerous claims based on these unique happenings have been put across, ranging from aliens' existence hypothesis to hidden underwater bases in the lake. Located to the east of Bimini in the Bahamas is a submerged rock formation called the Bimini Road. It was discovered back in 1968 and is composed of several huge flat stones put together in a straight line that could pass for a road or wall. Some think it was from lost Atlantis City, while others argue that it must have belonged to some other old civilization. However, the fact that these critics point out fails to kill the debate is its exact arrangement. Near Japan, in the Pacific Ocean, a zone like the Bermuda Triangle exists, which is the Dragon's Triangle, otherwise known as the Devil's Sea, infamous for several occurrences that continue to haunt its entire vicinity. Over the years, there have been scary stories about disappearing ships or planes, among strange events including magnet anomalies or even volcanoes underwater. This same area, according to some people, might have extraterrestrial bases below sea level, while others say they are just gateways between other worlds where sentient beings reside deep inside oceans, with much intelligence compared to us humans. Rumors speak of an underwater UFO crash site in the world's seas beyond the Baltic Sea anomaly. The claim resembles Roswell, except it is in water, asserting that an alien vehicle crashed. Then the Earthlings' governments rescued its wreckage along with the inhabitants in silence. Such theories suggest military secrecy. It has been learned that when sunken planes were located, some were later discovered to be experimental aircraft, citing national security as the reason for hiding such facts. Furthermore, apart from concealing official airplane crashes, these nations also recovered debris from these submerged vessels. It was only in 2011 when they discovered some unfamiliar object that made people argue could support this proposition more confidently. At different locations in the world's oceans, claims have been made holding the existence of massive underwater constructions meant to indicate the presence of advanced early civilizations or non-earthly terrestrial installations. Such claims are supported by statements that there could be pyramids or other huge buildings underwater along the Azores region and within the Gulf of Mexico. The discovery that these are artificial edifices would revolutionize our comprehension of historical events. The Great Blue Hole is a massive marine sinkhole off the coast of Belize that has given rise to several conspiracy theories. Some have advanced that it is a gateway to another dimension, while others claim that it is a covert entrance into a subaquatic undercover abode. The almost perfect circularity and the intensely dark interiors only serve to increase the mystery surrounding it, whereas most scientific explanations center on naturally occurring geological processes. There have been numerous cases of submarine disappearances that lack explanations in past times, giving rise to suspicions connected with hidden military activities and state secrets. The following are well-known cases: the USS Scorpion and the Soviet submarine K-129. It is believed that some of these submarines might have participated in secret missions, encountered strange underwater creatures, or been taken over by enemies in some other way. Oceanographic instruments have detected enigmatic sounds underwater, including the bloop, Julia, and upsweep. Although some of these noises have been connected to known elements such as icebergs and marine animals, other ideas propose that they may represent unidentified sea creatures, hidden military bases, or aliens inhabiting our oceans. A common theme in underwater conspiracy theories is the presence of alien bases on the ocean floor. These bases are believed to be concealed from human detection and are employed by extraterrestrial life forms for different purposes, like monitoring human actions or experiments, or even launching USOs. The ostensible reason why these mythical bases may exist is because the deep sea has large undetermined zones. One may argue that conspiracy theories involving underwaters are thrilling and raise questions about what we do not know regarding the depths yet to be explored in our planet's seas. The resultant enigma, potential historical narratives, and science fiction is forthright, so that these underwater theories remain relevant issues. Joe Rogan's podcast, The Joe Rogan Experience, continues to boom in 2024 as it maintains its place among the world's most popular podcasts. Every week, 3 to 4 episodes are uploaded by Rogan, and it's still on course to have more episodes production than ever done before. He put out 184 episodes in 2023, which was a small rise in the number of series produced lately. As of May 2024, they have produced 2,388 episodes, leading to total monthly downloads of 200 million. They manage to get huge audience figures as they always invite notable guests like comedians, scientists, actors, and entrepreneurs. It is amazing how popular the show has become. The Joe Rogan Experience YouTube channel has also seen significant outpouring, having 16 million subscribers as well as over 3 billion total views. Among the most watched shows are those where Joe interviews Elon Musk, reaching almost 100 million views too. Rogan goes on to host various guests and has recently featured names such as Terrence Howard, Rizwan Virk, and Sebastian Maniscalco. His show is still as popular as ever since he transferred to Spotify with an exclusive licensing agreement last year, and there are always many people visiting his site every month. Joe Rogan's podcast remains overall a strong force in the podcasting world, notable for its long, comprehensive conversations and varied subjects capable of appealing to people from all over the globe. Joe Rogan has continued to prosper in his private life and his career. Recently, he signed a new contract with Spotify worth around $250 million, hence the Joe Rogan Experience would remain exclusive to only this platform for some years ahead. Additionally, his show maintains its enormous appeal for listeners all over the world as it frequently attains top slots in global podcast ratings because of hosting different personalities, as well as interesting topics discussed therein. The podcast here on Rogan delves deep into every subject matter one can think of, ranging from politics and science to matters of health and spirituality. The most recent topics have been about the chaos in today's world, with conversations featured in the episodes with other prominent people, including the NFL quarterback Aaron Rodgers, talking about faith, as well as his spiritual beliefs. His pull on people remains strong even now because of huge numbers that listen to him and take his words seriously concerning different problems that exist in society. Apart from his podcast, Rogan is still present in UFC as a commentator and still gets in touch with his audience through his comedy and social media. His many-sided career and the ability to resonate with hosts and listeners across the board keep him as an unmissable figure in modern media stars.